This man is blocking the door. He says he's a federal employee. He won't tell us who gave him permission to do this. All he knows is he's going to stand here and tell the members of Congress who are elected, who vote for the funding for all of them in this building, and for the student loans, and for the Title I families, he's going to tell us that we can't come in and talk with anybody. Is that right?
I would have just walked through the door. I mean, I don't understand. Democratic members of Congress were denied access to the Department of Education building in D.C. on Friday. They were trying to meet with Acting Education Secretary Denise Carter. Now, the denial comes as Trump has made it clear he wants to eliminate the Department of Education completely via executive order. But folks, let's keep this honest and real. A president cannot abolish a federal agency without the approval of the United States Congress. Here's how Trump responded when asked about those Democrats fighting for answers.
They don't love our country. They don't love our country. We want great education.
That's a boneheaded answer. It has nothing to do with the process that he's put in place. It's not about the love of country. Democratic Congresswoman Madeleine Dean of Pennsylvania joins us now. I'm sorry, Congresswoman. She serves on the House Appropriations Committee and is a former educator. Welcome. Just so frustrated.
Good morning. Good to be with you.
Good morning. What is he doing? What is he doing here, Congresswoman?
He's continuing what we've seen for the last 20 days, which is just a dizzying, disorienting, disruptive set of motions. The point of it is the chaos and the fear. And so we stood, I wasn't with that one, that was Maxine Waters, as part of a team that had been protesting what the president and this chaotic administration are doing. And part of what they're doing is to try to take us off the focus of the rest of our lives. I wanted to just start today by saying I recognize that 3 more hostages have come home. The point of the Trump administration is to take us off the important things going on around the world. So I want to say, please, God, bring more home. And I'm delighted 3 more came home. I also want to tell you about my constituents. I have never seen in the 6 years I've been in Congress my phone's ringing off the hook with a universal cry from my constituents, hundreds and hundreds of calls saying, what is going on? I don't recognize our country. What is this administration doing? The point of it is to disrupt. You know, we saw in Project 2025, the very first sentence of the chapter on education was to dismantle the education department. The point is to sow fear. The point is very Orwellian. It is to reduce the education of our citizens so that they can control thought. We will all stand in the way of this. Democrats are unified to stand in the way of it. And so I'll be there. I'm a teacher at heart. I taught at LaSalle University for 10 years. The mission of LaSalle, the patron saint of teachers, Jean-Baptiste de LaSalle, was to educate the working poor. We have that mission here in this country, that all of our citizens get a fair and equal education. Donald Trump, Elon Musk don't want that to happen.
The U.S. Department of Education employs approximately 4,400 people. It has a $68 billion budget, according to the agency's latest data. A lot of people will be affected by this. Congresswoman, you say that Democrats are gonna stand firm. You're gonna work to block it. What exactly can Democrats do, and what are they going to do? There's some people that have been critical of what we saw from you all this week in terms of the rallies and standing outside of the agencies, attempting to gain access. There are other people that say, "Okay, great, we're seeing a little fight, but what else?" So give us a little bit of the playbook here.
Well, thank you. And that is the central question that people were asking me, calling me about, or emailing or texting me. What I think is the framework is what you've seen. Number one, we are litigating. You've seen dozens of cases brought very successfully to put temporary restraining orders on some of the outrageous things that Elon Musk and Trump are doing together. And so we'll continue to robustly litigate with a strategy to use the courts to protect American citizens against these unlawful attempts at taking. That's number one. Number two, you're right. We are Democrats in the minority, but we still have a legislative role. Our legislative role will be to introduce legislation. Much of it won't get passed because they won't bring it to the floor. The Republicans won't bring it to the floor, but we'll do oversight. But the third thing I have told my constituents, and they were happy to know this, is that their voice matters. So the third prong of this, mobilization of citizens. I am certain that the Republican freeze, the Trump-Musk freeze on federal spending was only 2 weeks ago. It's hard to believe. Was turned around, reversed and rescinded, though not fully, in 48 hours because of citizens' voices. Sure, we all made statements. We will continue to do that. But it is citizens' voices who are going to turn this back.
Congresswoman, talk to us about what the abolition of the Department of Education actually looks like. Republicans, since the first Reagan administration, have been really hankering to do that, but Reagan never did it. Bush never did it. And there were reasons for that. When you consider, for example, average federal spending in the 21-22 school year was 17% in Trump voting states, compared to 11% in states that voted for Kamala Harris. At 23%, Mississippi had the highest proportion of federal public school funding that school year, with South Dakota and Arkansas following with 22% each per USA Facts. New York is at 7%, the lowest. So abolish the Department of Education. What happens to education in the United States for the poor?
That's exactly the issue. What happens for education for the poor? You saw during COVID, for example, how so many of our school districts were struggling. I was proud that Democrats and Joe Biden put forward massive investment in our schools at the federal level that went to the states. It was very meaningful for Pennsylvania, for my district, where our school districts are not equitably funded. We have to make sure that we more equitably fund our school districts so that kids in one zip code or 3 zip codes over get the same thing. It's interesting you point out red states versus blue states. And I ask my Republican colleagues, do you want a disinvestment in your children's education, in your family's education? Literally, what is it going to mean? It's going to mean that more often, children who are poor, whose families are struggling and are poor, children of color, marginalized pockets around our country will get less. Children with disabilities will get less. We make great progress in this country when we try to level up our education system. To take it down, it literally is out of 1984. George Orwell warned about this. When you reduce the education of your citizens, they are less able to think, and then their thoughts can be controlled. We will see privatization of schools for profit, as Betsy DeVos and others wanted to do, and we will see a less educated electorate. I have to say, though, I know so many good teachers, so many good administrators, and so many families who will not stand for that.
Well, and those administrators and those educators have been put in an absolutely untenable position in the wake of these cuts. Just real quick, I'm not going to make you listen to sound of the president saying this, but there was something in his remarks yesterday that I think is worth highlighting. I like choice. We all like choice, but beyond choice, long beyond choice, I want to see it go back to the states. What does that even mean operationally?
I have no idea. The president does not make sense often.
Neither does he.
No, he doesn't.
What an
again,
evergreen answer.
I guess I'll leave it at that.
Congresswoman Madeleine Dean of Pennsylvania. We see that jersey behind you.
I see you flying the Eagles. Fly the Eagles, baby.
Go Birds!
We got much more ahead.